Hello everyone, welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. We're holding a Mishnah Berurah Chelik Vav, and in Mirz Hashem, in this share we will be learning Kuf Lamid Vav Amid Beis. So we're really up to a new Siman Tafresh Samach Tes, but before we begin Siman Tafresh Samach Tes, there is a small paragraph of Mishnah Berurah that really, it doesn't have its own ois cotton, but it really belongs to the previous Siman. So we're going to read that paragraph. It's the paragraph that begins Ma Shenoi Hagin. So the Chavetz Chaim here is speaking about the Simchas Torah night. So it's the night going from Shmini Atzeres into Simchas Torah in Chutz La'aretz, where we have 2 days of Yom Tov. Says the Chavetz Chaim, Ma Shenoi Hagin be'ezeh mekoimos, the custom that exists in some places. Sha'achar mincha shel Yom Tov Rishon, that after mincha on Shmini Atzeres day, koivin atzman lishtois, they sit down to drink ad Ma'ariv, all the way until Ma'ariv of Simchas Torah. V'lepa'amim, and sometimes nimshach davar zeh, this partying continues ad shah v'yoser balayla, until an hour or more into Simchas Torah night, and they have not yet davened Ma'ariv. Says the Chavetz Chaim, Shaloi kadinhu, this is improper, this is Shaloi kahalacha, mipnei kama ta'amim, for several reasons. Aleph, first of all, says the Chavetz Chaim, the kaim alon b'simin tzadik tes, if Aleph, we paskin in simin tzadik tes, the mishasa yayin kedei revius, if you drink a revius of wine or more, Al Yispalel, you're not allowed to daven Shemona Esrei, Av sheyachal ledaber adayin b'ftei hamelech, even if you still have your senses about you, you're still roy lamod l'ftei hamelech, so you're not drunk. But if you drank a revius of yayin, you're not supposed to daven Shemona Esrei. V'hu adin, and the same halacha applies, im shasa sha'ar mashkin hamishakrin. The same halacha would apply if you drank other intoxicating beverages, such as schnapps. Ayin Shamasiv Katan Aleph. Now, even if you're sitting down to a party and you drink other beverages that are not meshaker, the bottom line is, once you hit shkia, so now you're already getting into Ben Hashmashis, it's already Safek Laila, Chalalov Chayvas Kiddush. Now you have a chiv of Kiddush. Now it's already Laila of Simchas Torah. Now, really, if you want to eat or drink, you have a chiyuv of kiddush. V'asar litaim achi kadesh. So it would be prohibited to eat or drink anything now without kiddush. So if you sat down to start partying at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Shmini Atzeres, and now the party is continuing until Ben Hashmashis, already going into Simchas Torah, you're not allowed to eat, you're not allowed to drink, you have a chiyuv of kiddush. Va'afilu la'achar kiddush. Now, even if you'll say, well, we'll go ahead and we'll make kiddush. But you didn't daven Ma'ariv yet. You have a chiyuv daraisa of Kriya Shema Shal Arvis. You didn't say Kriya Shema. You're not allowed to be eating before Kriya Shema. The only eating or drinking that would be mutter before Kriya Shema would be Ti'ima Ba'alma, a snack. Do mine peris, fruit, or pas kebetza, or an amount of bread up to the volume of an egg, but not more. However, says the Chavetz Chaim, yesh lechapes aleihem schus. We could search for a schus. We could look for a limud heter for these people. The Rabbi matkeri ahadodi v'lo yavayu l'shkayach tfilas arvis. As far as the issue that they're eating and drinking before Ma'ariv, before Kriya Shema, no, we could be malabed epis schus, because since they're in a group of people are, at least somebody is going to remember, hey, we have to daven Ma'ariv, we have to say Kriya Shema. Aval al kol panim, nevertheless, says the Chavetz Chaim, yesh lizar shlo lishtois az mashka mishaker. Certainly you should not drink any intoxicating beverages. Umavura koil el b'simin tzadik tesiv katan aleph ubeis. And this entire topic is discussed in greater detail earlier in Chelik Aleph in Siman Tzadik Tes, Siv Katan Aleph and Beis. Okay, so that really completes Siman Tafresh Samach Ches, and now we'll go to Tafresh Samach Tes. Excuse me. Siman Tafrei Samach Tes, Seder Leil Simchas Torah, the Seder for Simchas Torah night, the proper tefillah, etc., etc. Ubay sif echad. And here we have one lengthy sif. Says the Mechaber, B'makom sha'isid shtei yamim tovim in Chutz La'aretz, where we have 2 days of Yom Tov. Leil Chi'i, the night of the 9th day, so that's the night after Shmini Atzeres, the night of Simchas Torah. Mekadshim, we make Kiddush. Vayimrim Zman, and we make a Shechayanu. Ulamachar, and on the next day, Simchas Torah, Moitzion Shloisha Svarim, we take out 3 Sifrei Torah. V'karin be'echad v'zayis habracha, and the first one we lay in v'zayis habracha at Seif HaTorah, all the way till the end of the Torah HaKdosha. Ubasheni, and in the second Sefer Torah Bereshis, we lay in Bereshis, Ad Asher Bara Likim Lasos, until the end of Vayichulu, until Sheni. Ubashlishi, and with the third Sefer Torah, Karei HaMaftir K'may Esmael, we lay in the Maftir, B'yom HaShmini Atzeres Dialochem, Umaftir, and as far as the HaTorah, on Simchas Torah, Vayihi Acharei Mois Moshe, that would be the beginning of Yeshua, Vayihi Acharei Mois Moshe. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Katan Aleph, Ad Soif. We lay in V'zayis HaBracha all the way till the end. Umisha Kaira Parsha Zu. The Oila, the one who gets the Aliyah, the last Aliyah of the Torah Kedosha, the last Aliyah of V'zayis HaBracha, Nikra Chasan Torah. He's called the Chassan Torah. V'nagu Limkar Parsha Zu Uparshas Bereshis. The custom is to sell the last Aliyah of V'zayis HaBracha and the next Aliyah, which is the beginning of Bereshis. V'kainim b'damim merubim, and those aliyahs are sold for lots of money. V'roy lahader im be'efsher, and if it's possible, we should be mahader sheyiyu akainim muchtarim b'Torah, that the people who buy these aliyahs should be muchtar b'keser Torah. They should be tamid chachamim. Ayal kol panim g'dolei hakahol, or if they're not g'dolim b'Torah, they should at least be g'dolei hakahol. They should be from the esteemed members of the congregation. What makes somebody an esteemed member of a congregation in Klal Yisrael? Obviously, he has to be somebody who's respected, somebody who's known to be Shomer Torah or mitzvahs, a fine person. Doesn't just mean a rich person. Ois Katan Beis, Ubasheni Bereshis. In the second Sefer Torah, we lay in the beginning of Bereshis. Misha Kara Parsha Zu, the one who gets the Aliyah for Bereshis, Nikra Chasan Bereshis. V'af Misha Ola Kvar B'Parshas V'zayis HaBracha. Even people who have already received aliyahs earlier in the day, during the rest of V'zayis HaBracha, Yachal Lalois L'Chassid Torah or L'Chassid Bereshis, they could receive Chassid Torah or Chassid Bereshis. They could get another aliyah to be Chassid Torah or Chassid Bereshis. Aval, however, Chassid Torah Lo Yikra Parshas Chassid Bereshis. The Chassid Torah should not be the Chassid Bereshis. V'hatam, and the reason for this is, Kevan Doleka Hefsik Beinehem, since there's no hefsik between the Chassid Torah and the Chassid Bereshis, Shaykh Pagam L'Sefer Torah Harishona, there would be a Pagam. It would be as if we're putting down the first Sefer Torah. In what way? Sheyarmru, people will say, Psula Haisa. The first Sefer Torah that they were learning from, they must have found a Psul. And that's why they wrapped it up and they put it away and they took out another Sefer. And the person who had the last aliyah in the previous sefer had another aliyah in the new sefer, because it must be they found a psul during his laning. The Chol Zeh B'Yisa Beis HaKnesses, however, this only applies if the Chassid Torah and the Chassid Bereshis are being done in the same shul. Al Misha Kara Chassid Torah B'Beis HaKnesses Zu, if somebody received Chassid Torah in one shul, and then he went to another shul, Vadai Shemutu Likroi Chassid Bereshis B'Beis HaKnesses Acheres, he could have Chassid Bereshis in another shul, because this rationale that we just said wouldn't apply. The Chassid B'Ma'aril Shekayin Alevi Yachaliyas Chassid Torah Chassid Bereshis. The Ma'aril writes that a Kayin or a Levi can be called up for Chassid Torah or Chassid Bereshis. Why is it that the one who gets the Aliyah for the end of the Sefer Torah and the one who gets the Aliyah for the beginning of Bereshis, why are they called Chasanim? What's Pshat? Chassid Torah, Chassid Bereshis? I believe the reason is because a Chasan is somebody who is now going on a fresh start. Right? That's what a Chasan is. V'hu kechasan yaitzei mechu pasai. A Chasan leaves the chuppah full of hope and enthusiasm. He's going out to a new period of his life together with his Kala, it's a fresh beginning. So too, on Simchas Torah, we go out to start the Torah HaKadoshah all over again. A lot of people, they come, they dance with the Sefer Torah, and when they pick up Parshas Bereshis, they're full of enthusiasm. This year, I'm going to make sure to finish Shnai Mikra Vecha Targum on time. I'm going to complete Gantz Chamisha Chumshei Torah on time. Maybe I'll do it with Rashi. Maybe I'll do it with the Ramban. So there's definitely a feeling of an excitement of a new beginning. Even the Oile, who's the Chassid Torah, who's being Messiah the Torah, he's not being Maschil the Torah, but it's all about a new Haskalah. Even the Siyam, like we learned yesterday, why do we start Bereshis right away? Because we want to show that, yeah, we finished, but we're going weiter. We don't want the Satan to be able to come and say, oh, they finished and now they want to put it down. So even the Messiah of Azayis HaBracha, the Chassid Torah, it's all about a fresh beginning, and that's why they're both called Chasanim. Ice cut and Gimel, last ice, we lay until after the end of Ayachulu. Umanichin Sefer Torah Ashlishis, we take them after Sefer Torah Etzla, we put it down on the bima next to the second Sefer Torah. V'ayrim Chatzi Kaddish, and we say a Chatzi Kaddish that goes on the laning of the first Sefer Torah, the second Sefer Torah, and the third Sefer Torah. Okay, now we go to the Ramah. Says the Ramah, 2 lines from the bottom Hagah. V'kairin Yom Tov Achron Simchas Torah. In Chutz Laretz, we call the last day of Yom Tov, Yom Chi'i, we call it Simchas Torah. Why? Says the Ramah, Lefi Shesmechin V'oisin Boi Sudas Mishteh, because we're Misameach on this day, and we make a Suda, we make a party, L'Gemara Shel Torah, for the finishing of the Torah HaKadoshah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Katan Dalet, Simchas Torah, Kasav El Yerabah, Sheba Simchas Torah Laila V'Yom. The El Yerabah writes that on Simchas Torah by night and by day, Yesh Laharbois B'Neiros B'Beis HaKnesses L'Chvaid HaTorah Shemoitzian. We should have extra Neiros in the Beis Medrash L'Chvaid HaTorah. Now, back in those days, really the addition of extra Neiros was to really brighten the room up. We have electric light. Yet, this might serve as the makar, the source, for those who put Neiros in the Aron Kodesh. When all the Sifrei Torah are taken out, they put Neiros in the Aron Kodesh, and then they take those Neiros out from the Aron Kodesh, and they go around the bima in front of the Sefer Torah together with those Neiros. Could be this El Yerabah is the source. We know also that Neiros have a shaychus to Torah, ki ner mitzvah v'Torah or. We're going to see very shortly in Hilchas Chanukah, somebody who's Zohir in Neiros, somebody who's extra careful with the Neiros of Shabbos and the Neiros of Chanukah, having lebenin Talmidei Chachamim. He'll have children that are Talmidei Chachamim. Why? Ki ner mitzvah v'Torah or. Kasva Paiskim, the Paiskim writes, says the Chavetz Chaim, Shebaleil Simchas Torah, during the night of Simchas Torah, Yikra Parsha Shtay Mikra Vecha Targum, we should do Parshas V'Zayis HaBracha, Shtay Mikra Vecha Targum, Sha'ata Hu Zmana, because now is its proper time. I don't have my Dirshu Mishnah Berurah up here with me. There was a very nice footnote number 8. I neglected to bring it upstairs with me. But as far as Shtay Mikra Vecha Targum on V'Zayis HaBracha, it's a very interesting scenario. Normally the halacha is that you're allowed to start reviewing the Parsha Shtay Mikra Vecha Targum once you have laned that Parsha B'tzibur. So normally, let's say I'm recording this, we're going into Parshas Vayechi. So we laned Vayechi Shabbos Mincha. Once we laned Vayechi Shabbos Mincha, you can already sit down and start doing Shtay Mikra Vecha Targum on Parshas Vayechi. My Rebbe, Reb Ruvain Zal Zayin Gesund und Stark, is very, very nizar. Right after Mincha, he sits down, he already has his chumash out, he's already being Mavisedra the next week's Parsha. He's usually done by the time the previous Shabbos is over, or certainly by Motzei Shabbos, he's finished Shtay Mikra Vecha Targum for the next week. It says there's a mitzvah upon you. Ein mavirin ala mitzvahs. We're not machmitz a mitzvah. When there's a mitzvah in your hands that you could done, mitzvah shabal yadai al tachmitzena. Don't put it off. Do it right away. Be Mekayim Yochiv to Bari Olam. So he's always finished Shtay Mikra Vechatargum. By Masi Shabbos for sure. He's finished Shtay Mikra Vechatargum. So when it comes to V'zayis HaBracha, we start laning V'zayis HaBracha even before Sukkot starts, right? Usually there's a Shabbos before, so by Mincha or Monday or Tuesday, we already started laning V'zayis HaBracha. So most of the Paiskim say you could start being Maris Sedra of V'zayis HaBracha. Once you laned V'zayis HaBracha for the first time, B'tzibur, you could already start laning V'zayis HaBracha. And when the Mishnah Berurah says over here, Sha'ata Huzmana, that you should do it on Leil Simchas Torah because now is its proper time, there are those Paiskim that say that these words should not be taken literally. What the Chavetz Chaim really means is because now is when you have to complete it. When do you normally have to complete being the Mavis Sedra? Normally you have to complete it before Shabbos afternoon by Mincha, right? Again, like this week, when do you have to finish Vayechi? You have to finish Vayechi before they're going to lane Shemois by Shabbos Mincha, because then the period of Vayechi is already over. Says the Mishnah Berurah, you should know Atahu Zvani, you have to finish V'zayis HaBracha before Simchas Torah by day, because Simchas Torah by day is when you're going to finish V'zayis HaBracha, so you got to finish it already. Also, it's appropriate to say Sha'atahu Zvana, because there are those Paiskim that say that the best time to be Mavis Sedra on a weekly basis is Erev Shabbos of that Shabbos. Now, I'm not condoning pushing off being Mavis Sedra until Erev Shabbos. You're taking a risk if you do that. But there are those Paiskim that say that that's the best time because it's right before Shabbos when you're going to lane that week's Parsha. In that case, so Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah by night is right before when you're going to lane V'zayis HaBracha. So maybe that's the most appropriate time for being Mavis Sedra of V'zayis HaBracha. Okay. Ois Katan Hey. The Ramah said we call the ninth day Simchas Torah Lefi Shesmeichen. Says the Mishnah Berurah, V'lechvayt HaTorah mutar l'raked b'Yom Tov. Even though normally we paskin that you don't dance on Shabbos or Yom Tov because Gzeir Shebi Yisakid Klei Shir. If you're going to come to dancing, now you might go tune a guitar or you might go fix a piano, which would be a malacha, would be tikkun maneh. So Gzeir Shebi Yisakid Klei Shir, we normally don't dance. However, it says the Mishnah Berurah, V'lechvayt HaTorah mutar l'raked b'Yom Tov, you're allowed to dance on Simchas Torah. And in Sharat Tzion, the Chavetz Chaim says, V'lechoru hu adin demutar l'sape kaf al kaf nami. You could also clap. Normally we refrain from clapping on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Also, Gzeir Shem Yisakid Klei Shir. So, but on Simchas Torah, you're allowed to dance, you're allowed to clap. Aval, however, continues the Chavetz Chaim, legamer mugmar, to burn incense. Tahainu, this means, lefazer mine besamim al hagecholim, to sprinkle aromatic spices on burning coals. Let's remember, bishul is mutter on Yom Tov, right? And havara l'tzorich, havara lo'ichel nefesh is mutter on Yom Tov. So to sprinkle besamim, aromatic spices, onto burning coals, and that's done for simcha purposes, is that something you're allowed to do? Says the Chavetz Chaim, no. Also, that's usher. Why is that usher? Because that's not a davar hashav l'chol nefesh. If you remember when we learned Hilchos Yom Tov, we learned that in order for something to be mutter because of Eichel Nefesh, it has to be Davar HaShava L'Chol Nefesh, something that the vast majority of people taka enjoy. Mugmar is a specific acquired taste. There are some people who appreciate it, but the vast majority of people don't appreciate it. So it's not a Davar HaShava L'Chol Nefesh, it's not mutter. The Chol Shekain, certainly, says the Mishnah Berurah, the Aser Lahaver Pilver. You're not allowed to burn Pilver, which my research seems to show that means some form of gunpowder. La Shmiya Koil L'Simcha. This is primitive firecrackers. You're not allowed to set off firecrackers, not fireworks, with a light show. Firecrackers, the ones that just go boom. You're not allowed to do that for Simcha. Because again, it's not a Davar HaShava L'Chol Nefesh. Nevertheless, mutter likbaya pilver baner be'erev Yom Tov, you could put this powder into a lamp on erev Yom Tov, koydem adlakas haner, before you light the ner, afal pi shegoyrim lebesayf shaner nichbal yidei zeh. So apparently you're going to put this powder into the lamp, right? The lamp is going to be lit before Yom Tov, and then it's going to burn down, it's going to hit the gunpowder, the gunpowder is going to go off, it's going to make a boom, and it's also going to put out the ner. And mechabe is also on Yom Tov. But over here, you didn't do anything on Yom Tov. You didn't do the kivoy on Yom Tov. You didn't put the powder in on Yom Tov. You didn't light the ner on Yom Tov. Everything was done before Yom Tov. So that would be okay. Ois cut and vav. We're making a simcha over here, l'gemara shel Torah, to celebrate the completion of the Torah HaKadoshah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, K'di isa b'medrash Sher Hashirim. Now this is very, very fascinating. This is a medrash in Sher Hashirim Rabbah that's really going on something that happened in Malachim Aleph. We all know that Shlomo HaMelech, he took the throne when he was very, very young. The Rabbanan Shalom asked him, what do you want? What would you like? What can I do for you? So Shlomo HaMelech's answer was, give me chachma, that I should be able to understand the mishpat. I should have the chacham to be able to, the chachma, to be able to properly judge the people. That's what he asked the Rabbanan Shalom for. The Rabbanan Shalom was gevaldik b'sameach. The Rabbanan Shalom said, you didn't ask for arichas yamim. You didn't ask for oishev kavod. What you asked was a leiv l'havin. You asked for a heart full of chachma to be able to judge the people properly. The Rabbanan Shalom was very, very happy. The Rabbanan Shalom said, I'm going to give you chachma. You're going to be the biggest chacham ever. But I'm also going to give you everything else that you didn't ask for as well. And the pasuk in Malachim Aleph says that Shlomo HaMelech made a mishteh l'chol avodav. And that was in celebration of receiving this divinely inspired chachma from the Rebbeinu Shalom. He went and he made a simcha for all of his people. He made a mishteh. The Medrash in Sher Hashirim Rabbah says that this is the source for making a mishteh, for making a suda, for the completion of a mitzvah, or for a siyum mesechta, to celebrate the completion of Torah. Now, to me, it's very, very interesting, because that's not what Shlomo HaMelech was on the surface. That's not what Shlomo HaMelech was celebrating. Shlomo HaMelech was celebrating this divinely inspired chachma that he received from the Rebbeinu Shalom. So I wanted to suggest that there is no such thing as chachma without Torah. There is no real chachma unless it's tempered by Torah. Chachma b'goyim tamin. Chazal say that there could be chachma b'goyim. What does that mean? They could know how to make a vaccine. They could know how to make a machine. They could have the chachma to devise a very powerful computer. But wisdom, what we call wisdom, can only be had if it's tempered by Torah HaKadoshah. A chachma that is not taken through the crucible of Torah, it's not refined by Torah, will always go astray. We'll end up with the chachma that we see nowadays, the great chachma that leads to things like climate change. All the backwards things that we see in the world nowadays. You have tremendous chachma. We have the chachma that's resulting in crime surges around the country, right? That's chachma. So chachma has to be tempered by the Torah HaKadoshah, otherwise it is not true chachma. So when Shlomo HaMelech celebrated chachma, intrinsic in that is celebrating Torah. Okay, so again, Mishnah Berurah is cut in vav. Kedisa b'medrash Sher Hashirim, that we're misameach for the Gemara shel Torah. For who adin l'gemar mitzvah, we should also always make a simcha when we complete a mitzvah. Kasav Eliyah Rabba, the Eliyah Rabba writes, B'vur mea paiskim, it's clear from the paiskim, to yesh l'smayach l'rabim, that we should make a simcha for the tzibur, b'chol ma de'efsher, as much as possible, b'simcha shel mitzvah, whenever we make a simcha of a mitzvah. Udaloi ki yesh, and not like those shemakin, who hit each other, the doichin elu la'elu, and they push each other, ad simcha nepach letuga, until the simcha becomes a source of aggravation, chas v'shalom. It becomes a source of strife. Tuga is strife. Sometimes you have, in some places, where the simcha of Simchas Torah gets out of hand, people get villed, and they start pushing each other, and they get rough. and it turns into a tuga instead of a simcha. Gam mitach kach moinin mi simcha shel mitzvah. This keeps people away from a simcha shel mitzvah. V'lachein, and therefore, says the Chavetz Chaim, yesh ligar bahen ad kan l'shaynai. The Eliyah Rabbah writes that we should protest against such people. Gam maharik b'sharish tes herich ma'oid. The maharik is very ma'arich, and he writes, Shaloi levatel shum minig shenagu l'chvayit simchas HaTorah. We should not be mevatel any minhagim that the kadmoinim set up for Simchas Torah ayin sham. V'lachein, and therefore ra oisin, it's a bad thing that they do b'harbe mikaymes in many places. B'mashe bitlu mikarav, that recently they were mevatel shaloi lases mishtev v'simcha b'simchas Torah. They were mevatel the idea of making a mishtev, making a suda, and making a big simcha on Simchas Torah. Af gam shesmechin b'shar yamim, even though they don't refrain from making simchas on other days. V'chol yemehim kechagim, and they spend all the days of their lives like parties. So they're party animals for everything else. But on Simchas Torah, they refrain from partying. Uba'avay neseinu arabim bizui kvayd HaTorah garam zeh she'HaTorah menechas b'keren zavis ve'in doirish ve'in mevakesh. In Ba'avay neseinu arabim, this creates a bizui HaTorah. But you'll party for everything else, but you don't party for the Torah, then ain't Dirshu vein mavakesh. Nobody is searching out Simchas Torah. Umi yitain yashav yirachem shever beis Yisrael b'mehera v'yameinu. The Bekur Yaakov writes, yitain, that what wouldn't we give that the Rabbeinu Shalom should return and have rachmanis on the broken Klal Yisrael b'mehera v'yameinu. Okay, I'm going to stop over here for now. I'm going to try to, if my voice holds out, I'm going to try, Mirz Hashem, to record yet another share today. So for now, we're going to stop. The bottom line here in the Shulchan Aruch, right by the Ois Katan Zayin for the Mishnah Berurah, in middle of the words of the Ramah. Thank you for joining me for limud HaTorah. Discuss of limud HaTorah should be made against Klal Yisrael. The Rabbeinu Shalom should say, Yeshua's refuahs parnasa sheduchim to all the need, and we should be zeichet to see the BS Gal Tzedek, but meher v'yameinu, amen. Be well.